At the core of every story, there's a central premise that birthed the initial concept. For some, it's revenge, others, it's redemption, and for some, it's hope. Today, I want to discuss a piece that deals with the latter. I read my favorite YouTuber's book, and I'm going to tell you guys all about it. Micro God by K.R. Martin, or as he's more widely known, the Crimson Rogue. Most of his notoriety comes from reviewing Empress Teresa and the Onision trilogy of shit. More to the point, however, Micro God is about a character named Richard Clark, a godlike entity with the ability to influence anything within a 5 feet radius around himself. He can warp reality to his heart's content, and this is where we get the central conflict of the story. He cannot be challenged in the world that he is put in. There is no Joker to the Batman. There is no Lex Luthor to defeat Superman in this universe. And moreover, this man's been alive for hundreds of years. In the 1860s, he was already past having his second wife. Later in the book, it's stated that he's over 300 years old. So at the heart of the story is an exploration of the Superman dilemma. What do you do with a character that cannot be challenged within his universe? What can you do with a character that can do anything? And the obvious answer to that is you explore his emotional and mental state and his interpersonal relationships. And mainly, we see two within the structure of the novel, that being the relationship he has with a man he spares from a gang that he's trying to eliminate, and the other being a doctor that he falls in love with named Chloe. And I would like to talk about the latter relationship first, because I do have a lot to say about that as well as the former relationship. And with the former relationship, I do actually have some criticisms I would like to levy and hopefully help Krim improve his writing overall. But more on that later. My favorite part of the whole novella is the relationship and the juxtaposition between Chloe and Richard. I find these characters to be very interesting because they have a lot of chemistry, they work well in scenes together, while also juxtaposing their worldviews and facilitating change within Richard, which I respect Crimson very, very much for being able to pull off as well as he does in only a 58-page runtime. And honestly, the only thing I have to complain about with their relationship is I would have very much enjoyed to have seen it more. I really feel like this novella would have worked better as a novel in length. And I feel like he would have been able to flesh the characters out a whole bunch more. But I also recognize that this was probably part of the intention to leave us wanting more, in that most of the characters are very likable, and I would say in some respects the brevity works in the piece's favor, primarily due to the fact that you do want to see more interactions, and that's always better than wanting to see less of a character, if you understand. But moving back to the idea of the juxtaposition brought up between the two characters, Richard really embodies a very old, very antiquated way of viewing things in the way of morality. And Chloe embodies more of a lighthearted, maybe naive, but more modernistic view of human morality. Richard very much believes in crime and punishment, while Chloe believes in the human innate ability to forgive and find redemption. And it's her who kind of facilitates the change in Richard, who eventually spares Clarence, someone who is in a gang but doesn't really want to be. And Richard, while not completely shifted to her viewpoint as it would make sense for him to be, sees something in him and allows him a second chance. And Clarence being the other character of note, that I actually do have some criticisms towards, and that mainly falling on the shoulders of this once again being a novella and not having what I would feel would be enough time to develop his character properly. He is likable, and I do enjoy his character, though, again, I would have liked to have seen more of him. However, I will say that Crimson does write a very affecting death scene when he passes at the climax of the story. And furthermore, I would have liked to have seen Richard emote more toward the passing of Clarence, because if I'm not mistaken, he does not at all even acknowledge his passing. Chloe is actually more affected previous to her death than his. And while I will say that her being torn up about it does make a lot of sense, and in the sense that she dies very soon after, he doesn't exactly get a lot of time to acknowledge Clarence's passing. Um, However, I will say it would have been nice if if he had at least brought it up and been made aware of it. Because as it stands, I'm not 100% sure that he actually found out about it, which it is a little sad because I would have enjoyed to have seen that compounded with his grief with the passing of Chloe and just getting the opportunity to see how these feelings compound with one another. But also, in a sense, I do think I understand why he might have chose to omit this, because it would have conflicted with the resolution of the story, which is that he meets someone that he saved previous to these events at the beginning of the story, and he stops him essentially from committing suicide and allowing all of his godly essence to just leave his body, which was a very poignant scene to me. I very much enjoyed seeing this character come back because he was in the back of my mind. You know, Crimson, I really was like right up until the end. I was like, where is Steve coming in? I know that man's coming back. And this really ties into the story being very much about hope and the restoration of Richard Clark's hope and his ability to cope with the world around him and his role in it. Because in this world, Superman can't be everywhere at once. And we see it in the story. We see that once he clears out of town, any surviving gang members just move to another one until he leaves. Then they come back and they try to exact revenge upon the groups that he saved. So in this world, the Superman archetype has a very real and very deadly consequence for those that are in the vicinity of him. And this is another side note that I'm going to give Crimson a lot of genuine praise for. He developed the magic system in a very organic and believable for the universe way. And I enjoyed it a lot. And he used this as an extension of the plot to add weight to what the characters' actions cause, their consequences. And I found this to be a really interesting take off of your kind of standard hero tale. As I mentioned, I also enjoyed the very bittersweet ending with him regaining his hope for the world, but losing two people that he held very dear to himself. And overall, I very much enjoyed the story. That I did have issues with it, as I mentioned, and there are some typos here and there, but I feel that's very excusable because this was a one-man undertaking. As far as I understand, he edited it himself, and he's very well humored about the fact that he made a few mistakes in his book, and he mentions it on his channel.
I am not the perfect writer. I am not the perfect editor. I miss things all the time. My own published book is not the best. I left a few typos in, unfortunately. At one point in Micro God, a guy draws a gun twice without holstering it or anything. So
Overall, I was a little conflicted about how I felt about how small scale the story felt because of the power of the character, but I feel that juxtaposition at the end actually serves the story itself. And for my rating of the story, I'm going to give it 3.5 to 4 out of 5 stars. But furthermore, I would also like to say thank you to Crimson Rogue for inspiring me to start this channel. And, well, to be honest with you, I was really giving up on a lot of my own creative endeavors before I found his channel, and I actually tweeted at him, and he started responding to me off and on. And that really did a lot for me, and it's a very small thing. And in his channel, he harps a few times about the idea that the small things we do for people really can inspire hope and make people's days a lot better. And he probably isn't aware of it, but him replying to my tweets a few times really did that for me. So I wanted to make this video as a little bit of a thanks to him. So anyway, the Seraph's out.
I'm actually going to take a moment to say the opposite. Anyone watching this, to some extent, does matter. I had to put on a report a couple of months ago for my day job, and one of the things I wanted to do was make it a really nice looking report. I had to go out and get these professional looking binders. So I went down to Staples, but I had no idea where to look. I never shop in that store. So I asked one of the clerks to help me out. He pointed me to not only the right section, but to exactly the right product that I described to him. He saved me who knows how much bumbling around in the store that I was not familiar with in order to make my presentation better. And it was a little thing. It's not a significant life-changing event, but it doesn't have to be. Small things like that can make someone's entire day that much better. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.